Hi, I'm Halle,
And I'm Holly.
and welcome to the ELP Current Ed podcast number 1 for Bettendorf High School. So today the topic is Wi-Fi and iPads at BHS in general, and the 3 subtopics we'll be covering are internet speed, applications on the iPad, and the iPad in the classroom. So let's start with internet speed. So obviously, the internet speed at Bettendorf High School has been a clear problem for the past year, at least from my personal experience. Would you say the same?
I would definitely agree. Many students have complained about there not being enough bandwidth and many problems with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So, the problem is, when you're doing random stuff on your iPad, the internet sometimes works fine, sometimes doesn't work fine. But then when you actually need to do stuff, especially during advisory when everyone's on it, it causes major problems and you can't do everything that you would like to do. Which sucks because then you can't get the stuff done for advisory, which you supposedly do need to get done. Same with classes.
A problem that I've definitely seen is especially when you're taking tests and something won't work. That's especially the worst because you need to take that test.
Yeah. Like with NICU and stuff. So far, everyone has concurred that having more bandwidth is the solution to this issue. And I've heard rumors that BHS is adding more bandwidth next year, which I would assume they would do anyway, even though it is pretty costly. But when you have, 4 grades on an iPad at one time, you're gonna need more bandwidth,
I agree. I feel like this is something that the school definitely needs to do, is to add that extra bandwidth, especially with, the incoming batch of freshmen.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that... Well, actually, are the freshmen... Do you know if they're getting iPads or Surfaces or something like that?
I believe that the school was thinking about giving out Chromebooks. That's what I heard. Or some sort of laptop instead of the iPad, because of the problems posed with it.
Okay. I would strongly recommend to the school that they do not get Chromebooks.
Yeah, I feel like it would be definitely a problem to have, half of the school having these iPads, and then the other half having some sort of laptop, because that definitely pose problems with, teachers and their apps that they choose and things such as that.
There'd definitely be some adaptation, which would kind of be really sucky for teachers who have already adapted to the iPads and figured all that out, So, and I've also heard Chromebooks are very, very...
faulty.
Yeah.
That's the word for it.
My friend uses them, and she lives in Connecticut, and my friend uses Chromebooks at her school, and she says that it is probably one of the most inconvenient things she has ever used in her life. So, based on that information, I would not get Chromebooks.
Well,
so, yeah.
on the other side of it, though, I've heard other students who use Chromebooks, and they say that it's a lot less distracting, especially since, a problem has been, the iPads in the classroom and students being distracted by it, while with the Chromebook, you don't have those apps, and you don't have that social media at hand, because they're, blocked on the websites. So I feel like that's also some way that the school is maybe thinking about solving that problem.
Yeah. I mean, for that reason, I would definitely not choose Surfaces just because I feel they'd be harder to block than Chromebooks or iPads even, and they're just less secure, I would think, or at least in my opinion. But yeah, good tangent. Okay, so we've already discussed what the school is doing about it, which is adding more bandwidth, which is good, and I'm glad they're making that decision. So moving on to applications on the iPad, I mean, the problem I've experienced the most is probably that there are different applications for literally each class I go to. And I have to download so many more applications than I think is needed.
Mm-hmm. One problem that I've especially found, with myself, is that, I'll arrive at a class, during second semester, and they're you should already know how to use this, you've probably used it in other classes, and I haven't used it in other classes, because everyone's using different things, and then that just causes problems and takes away teaching time.
Yeah, definitely. And I hate having to learn how to use a bunch of different applications when I could just be, like, learning one that does the same thing. Like, just like all these applications are doing. Like, Edmodo and Shobi.
I feel like Edmodo is one that especially, like, I've really enjoyed, like, more than Shobi. But I use Shobi in one class and then Edmodo in another. And that just gets confusing, and you're taking up, like, too much of your storage with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. And, because, like, Edmodo teachers will use to, like, send out files and stuff, like, that you need for class. And Shobi does literally the same thing. Like, the only group application the entire school uses is GoodNotes. And that's not even a class thing. It's just kind of your own personal deal. Yeah,
that's why I feel like, especially if the school had to choose one to, like, adopt, which I think that they should really do, and I feel like Edmodo can really do a lot. So it's like, if the whole school, or if, like, all teachers, like, said, okay, I'll be using Edmodo, instead of some teachers using different things that take away a lot of these problems.
Yeah, I think it's easier, like, because I've seen how teachers use Shobi on the other side. I think it's easier for teachers, I would think, at least. Of course, you have your own opinions, but I mean, I would rather use Shobi just because it's very simple and organized. Or we could just go back to Google Drive like the good old days.
I guess I just haven't used Shobi as much, and, like, when teachers have used it, I guess they just, like, didn't show us all the ways you can use it. Mm-hmm. But, like, from what I've seen of, like, Edmodo, you can do, like, so many different things with, like, quizzes and, like, throwing out assignments, and you can answer questions and things like that. And, like, I'm not sure if Shobi does stuff like that, but it's, like, just adopting one of those things. Like, just the universal app for that thing.
Just something.
Yeah, I mean, really, if they did that for all of the different things that teachers need, you know, adopting, like, Naiku for all test taking, like, they've taken away the Scantrons.
Yeah.
It's like, that was a good choice. I'm not sure if I agree, but, like, I like Scantrons, but still.
I mean, Naiku is definitely a good application, but at the same time, it's a really bad application.
Yeah, with the bandwidth problems, it's like that just causes more problems with Naiku.
Yeah.
So, again, a problem with internet storage and bandwidth.
Yeah, Naiku can be really great and awesome, and I feel like test taking just kind of flies by when you're having the Naiku, and I love how Naiku just kind of tells you right then and there what you got.
That's something that especially, like, I just love, because I'm the kind of person that, like, I want to know right away, because I'm stressing out about it. Yeah. So that's something that I really liked, and if the school does, like, have more bandwidth and things, like, if everyone adopted Naiku, which they're already starting to do, that'd be great. Just do that with everything else.
Yeah, except I do have one class where we do Naiku for worksheets and stuff, and then my teacher grades the worksheets, like, they don't grade it on participation, they grade it on what you got right, which I'm
not a big fan
I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I mean, I understand Naiku for test taking, but I'm just not a huge fan of Naiku with worksheets, because
the standard worksheets, I feel like that's something that's really good.
Yeah, because I feel like I can't really utilize it for studying afterwards, and I also, like, get a lot wrong, so I struggle in that class because of it.
I feel like just, like, the school shouldn't totally adopt everything electronic, like how your teacher's using, like, Naiku for worksheets. Yeah. It's like, I feel like still keeping those classic things. Yeah. That's, like, a good idea. Because then we'll just be using way too much bandwidth. Okay. Yeah. It all goes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And, I mean, Edmodo I've had issues with too, just because it's kind of buggy, you know? It feels like a social media website, which I like, but I also don't like at the same time.
I feel like it's, like, a really good tool, especially because when there's a lot of people in the class agreeing, like, hey, I don't know how to do this, the teacher can immediately, like, see it and help. Yeah. And that's something that, like, if I'm at home and I'm having problems with an assignment, it's like I can just send out a post on Edmodo, and then my teacher can reply. And it's like, that just lowers the stress level so much.
I know, I really like that. I wish they kind of did that for tests, almost. Like, I mean, I feel like Edmodo gives students a voice, which is great.
It does. That's important.
Because, like, if you have a test and everyone is, like, failing or, like, needs help studying, you can say, like, hey, can we go over this in class? Because that'd be great.
That's a good comparison.
You know? And I do like how Edmodo is very, like, social, but at the same time, it's kind of weird. It's, like, uncomfortable, but I feel like we'll get used to it.
But I feel like the thing with how you were saying, like, it's more social, I always feel like it's something really important for educators and teachers to become, like, friendly with their students. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's just another way how you're strengthening those ties between teacher and student.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
a great thing to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of applications are blocked where they should be blocked, but some of them I feel like could be unblocked and we wouldn't have a problem with. It's all very interesting, you know?
It is, because some of the things that they choose to block and the things they don't choose to block, it's like, I just don't really understand what their thought process is.
It's not very consistent. That's what...
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. It's just like how they'll have one thing blocked and another thing not, and it's just... It just all seems kind of silly to me.
Yeah, like, for example, they block Facebook, but they don't block Twitter because they're promoting the idea of positive, you know, social media on Twitter when...
Facebook can also be positive.
Yeah, and
it's
I don't
like
understand...
Twitter isn't the only social media site. And it's like they don't block Instagram because, like, schools use that for... I mean, classes use that for, like, projects. Like, in French, I'm using that. It's like... So I just don't really understand. It's like, if you're gonna block social media, block them all. Or open them all. You know, because you can't just be promoting one site and not the other ones. Yeah. That's just confusing.
I don't really know the whole deal on, like, what is blocked on YouTube and what isn't. I just assume that you put it on a safety mode or some sort. But, like, some videos are blocked when you're like, why? Why are they blocked? This does not make sense. Like, it could be an educational video about some... physics and it'll be blocked and you're like, what?
Well, is that like on, if you're using a browser, is that on YouTube? Because I know that I use the YouTube app.
And the YouTube app like blocks nothing, which is
blocks nothing.
An issue, first of all, at school, because I don't know if there's
students can
any
be
way
watching
we can
whatever they want.
Integrate safety mode onto the app or somehow, but like it's kind of an issue how you can access any video on YouTube. But if you're using a browser, you can't, which annoys me.
Yeah, because I just don't really understand that. Again, with the consistency, it's like you can't just have the YouTube app, like, unblocked where people can do whatever they want, because then they'll just go around the blocks that are on the browser and go straight to the app.
And there is always some sort of app that kids use to get around these blocks anyway. It's not like that's really avoidable.
Crafty. Students are crafty, and that's what they're figuring out is ways to get around things. So if the school
whether they ruin their iPad or not.
If the school just, like, kind of laid down the law or, like, told us, hey, this is what's going to be blocked, this is what's not, then I feel like that would make me a little more comfortable in, like, knowing that things are going to not be as crazy with apps.
And I would like to know, like, I remember everyone being on Tumblr a lot and how that caused a huge issue and then Tumblr was blocked, but I want to know the statistics on how effective that was, because I'm kind of interested in that, because I want to know how people, well, I know how people responded to it, I just kind of want to know how effective it really was and how blocking does that. And they also blocked, well, Tumblr was the other big thing that they blocked. And I just, mainly with the social media, I don't understand how you can block one social media website, but at the same time not block others. Because I know Instagram is used for classes.
And then Twitter is used for, like, the school websites. And it's like, I personally really like that. Is the school doing that on Facebook, too? Having those same posts that they're posting to Twitter?
Well,
because it's
from the pages I like on Facebook about the school, they aren't as consistent as Twitter.
That's what I'm saying. They should keep... That poses another problem, because if someone has, like, a Facebook account, it's like, they're not going to go get a Twitter account just to see school stuff. And, like, the other way around. So that's what I'm saying, is that the school should become more consistent with that, and then, like, open up all social medias, so that, like, people that have Facebook can be able to see those things that the school is pushing.
And they may do that
with Twitter. Things like that.
And it's unfortunate for kids who don't even like social media and aren't really on it at all, but they want to know things, and then they're kind of, like, left out of the loop, almost. Because, like, I only know the advisory schedule because of Twitter.
Really?
Literally.
And it's like, and sometimes I'm, like, sitting there and I'm like, how do other people know this? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Because how are you supposed to get around that? And it's like, I just know that Mr. Costas, like, personally, I just know Mr. Costas is a huge fan of Twitter. Yeah. And I think that that's most of the reason why that's, like, our central thing, is because, like, Mr. Costas is a big fan. but I feel like it'd just be a better idea to just expand it.
Yeah, definitely. So, the storage on the iPad, like, I know that the iPads were bought, like, with decreased storage than, like, a regular iPad in an Apple store, just because, of course, that's cost efficient, and also for a school, at least. And, I feel like this is really only a problem for kids who, like, have a bunch of games on their iPads.
It really is. And that's another problem.
Yeah, and they use, like... And, I mean, I think it's perfectly justified that a teacher can tell a student to delete an app that for personal use to download a school app. But I also think that if people find this unfair, integrating to one app would also help that.
It all connects in the end.
Yeah, really. So going on, like, to iPads in the classroom, we've already acknowledged that this is probably one of the biggest problems in the classroom that we have at BHS.
It really is.
Like, when I went around to survey kids for this podcast and I asked, hey, do you think iPads are a problem in the classroom, or do you think bullying is a problem at BHS? And this is pretty good. Like, most of the students said, you know, iPads in the classroom and how kids behave because of these iPads are a huge difference than, like, bullying, because I rarely see bullying at BHS, which is
That's a
great.
good thing, but then that also poses the problem of, like, what's going on with iPads? I mean, really.
Yeah.
Because just, like, what I've seen, and just, like, it's even just changed things for me, you know, just how I, like, work in a classroom. Because it's, like, before in middle school, where you didn't have the iPads, it's, like, in class, if you didn't have something to do, you, like, read a book. Or you could work on some other homework you have. But now that we have this iPad that can be used for good or for evil, it's, like, you can just go on social media instead, and it just, like, it seems like it could be a distraction. And it is a distraction.
Yeah, I never read anymore.
Student.
I just realized
really,
I never get to read
crazy
in class anymore just because I'm on this iPad, you know?
I was thinking once, and I'm like, what's the last book I read? And I'm like, I haven't read any books except for the ones that I've been in classes.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because I'm a reader, and
yeah, I want
it's
to be
a
a reader.
problem that I'm not reading, because, like, last year, if you look at me, I'd always have a book with me, you know, I'd always have homework to work on.
Oh, I'd read all the time last year, just because I didn't have this distraction.
I know, it's like, and my mom, she calls the iPad a devil, because, like, she can see it in me, too, where, like, if I'll just be sitting at home a lot, just on my iPad. You know, just being distracted. And, like, in class, you're in class on the iPad.
Yeah, and I feel almost like I don't want to do schoolwork on the iPad just because it's such an inconvenience compared to, like, doing it on a computer.
Yeah, because it's like I don't have my own computer, so I'd always use the family computer. So I'm like, yay, now that I have an iPad, everything will be better. But now it's like, there's a lot of problems on the iPad, so it's like, now I just want to use the computer.
Yeah.
And it's just, I thought I'd love it so much, and it's proved to have, like, a lot of good, positive things, you know, different apps and stuff. Like, I really love GoodNotes, but it's like, other than that, there's so many issues with it.
Yeah, and I really like how, you know, it's available at your fingertips if you need to do something in the classroom really quickly, but at the same time, if we were going to go work on something, I would rather go to a computer lab so I can actually get it done, because I get
distracted.
Half the work done on my iPad than I do on a computer, and that's just kind of how I, like, work and function.
Really, because there's so many problems both with, like, just apps and distractions and everything like that. Like, if you're working on a project, if you're on a computer, you can be, like, on your browser and have Google Docs and all of your, like, research open and everything, and, like, switch back. But it's just so much harder on the iPad to do things like that, and to write papers especially.
Yeah, oh, I hate writing papers on the iPad
papers are
so much.
Because, like, especially Google Docs, the app has so many problems. It's
like,
you can't double space. You can't indent.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do any of this, because it's so messed up.
Yeah, if you want to indent, you press the spacebar 5 times, and that's how you're going to do it.
It's like, yep, that's an indent. And it's like, to double space anything, you have to do it on a desktop.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't get it. So many problems. Just with Google Docs. And then think about all the problems with all the other apps too, and that just causes the inconvenience and all the distractions and all the problems.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, so going back to the behavior in the classroom, or at least the negative behavior, apps, first of all, there's gaming all the time. You don't ever see someone who's not on a game.
Mm-hmm. I get distracted very easily, and it's not like in all classes, but especially like my American history class. I sit in the second row, and there's two people who sit like directly in front of me, and I can never focus on the lecture in class because all I'm looking at is the game they're playing, and it's like I just get in this trance where it's like I can't look up. It's like I know I sit there and I'm thinking, and I'm like, gotta listen to this lecture, gotta know what's going on in Vietnam, gotta know what's going on in these things, when all I can focus on is this iPad and this game. And it's like, teachers can say, don't play games, but they don't listen. So all I want is for my teacher to make it stop. Because it's so distracting. It's so hard for me.
Yeah, actually, this has been quite effective. I mean, at first, because in my German class, our teacher makes us put our iPad and our phone on the table.
I wish my classes did that. I wish it did.
And they give us a 5-minute break. She gives us a 5-minute break in the middle of class. And I didn't like this at all at first. I was like, no, I don't want to put my iPad in the corner of that desk. I want to have it with me all the time. You are restricting my freedoms. But honestly, it's so effective. And people aren't on the iPad. And people have kind of come to terms with the fact, okay, I can't be on my iPad, but I'll get a 5-minute break if our class is doing well today.
All teachers should be doing that. Because, like, a lot of teachers, like, most of what they do is just say, like, don't use your phone, don't use your iPad. But they don't enforce it.
Yeah,
and like, when they do it's anyway. Like, people, like, find their way around it where they can, like, sit there and, like, hide it and things like that. It's just... Teachers just all, I feel, need to have that policy because it's so hard to get... I mean, it's so easy to get distracted.
And I think that it's very great how our school allows kids to have their iPads and phones in the classroom.
Yeah, that's a great thing, but it can also be bad. Yeah,
but I mean, I think it's really, really, like, comforting to have your phone with you. Like, for me, at least. Like, if I'm talking to someone through my phone and it's kind of an emergency, or I have friends over at another school who are talking to me, I think it's great that I can have my phone with me. But I've just found that having a teacher say, put your iPad in your phone where I can see them, we'll have a 5-minute break in the middle of class so you can use them. I think that's really important. Yeah, that is very important.
I mean, really, because that's such a good idea.
Yeah,
it's baffled.
And I mean, the 5-minute break is very important just because I think it's definitely good compensation for having to be without it, you know?
You were saying, like, that's comforting to have your phone. So it's like, when you have that 5-minute break, it's like, you're like, oh, look, all good now. And then you can still return back to doing what you were doing before.
And the transitioning back into class is not as bad as I thought it would be. When she first presented this idea to us, I thought, wow, transitioning back into class time is going to be really hard. But she chooses good spots to have pauses because it's right in the middle of something, like not during a lecture or anything like that. Yeah. So it's
and I feel
very
like
nice.
That would also be like really chill, like if you are like if it's after like in a lecture or something, having that like kind of relaxed time,
Yeah, it was really nice. And so another big thing was the airdrop, or at least in the first semester, like, everyone had their airdrop on, so people would send a bunch of pictures to everyone else.
And, like, it's just stupid stuff. I mean, like, stupid internet memes and things you find on the internet. And it's just, like, it got to the point where I was just, like, really annoyed.
And I know you can turn your airdrop off, but you also, like, forget to turn it off, or you just want to keep it on,
It's like, I like keeping it on because what if my friend wants to send me something,
Then I don't want to go in there and then turn it back on, as stupid as it sounds.
Just gets... It's true, though, because it's like, airdrop is one of those things that you just always forget about, because, like, sometimes I'll realize, I'm like, I have airdrop. I could send whatever picture I want to anyone. You just kind of realize you have that power. Maybe that's what drives those people to do that.
I'm kind of neutral on the whole airdrop thing, because, like, sometimes people can send pretty funny stuff.
Yeah, it's sometimes funny, but other times, like, when you're in the middle of a class, and you're in the middle of a lecture, and you're taking notes on your iPad, and then suddenly just some stupid picture pops up, and you just get extremely annoyed.
Yeah.
It's like, please just stop.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
And they did kind of stop. I mean, this second semester hasn't been as bad
It's
as
been
like,
so
the
much
first
better.
semester. Like, people just kind of forgot about it, but it'll be back next year, I guarantee
It definitely will. It definitely will.
Yeah. Another big thing is camera in, like, Snapchat, and I honestly, like, people take Snapchats of teachers all the time, no matter how you look at it, because literally, like, when you have this in the classroom, you are always... It's always going to happen.
And you always it's just that you have that option where you're like, oh, I can take a funny picture of someone.
Which is technically illegal, I think.
Yeah, it is.
To take a picture of someone. I mean, to post it would be illegal.
Yeah.
But isn't Snapchat almost kind of posting if you put it on their story? I mean, sending it to someone else, like, isn't that questionable?
Because they could always keep that and things like that.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's just also, again, like, with that distraction part where it's like, if you're sitting there Snapchatting your friend with pictures of your teacher, it's like, you're not learning. You're Snapchatting.
And I mean, everyone does it. Like, I've done it before. As much as I hate to admit it. I've done it. It's like, it wasn't terrible. But, like, I mean, you know.
I get it. Because, like, I feel like first semester, we all just were kind of like, ooh, we have iPads. I can take pictures of people on photo booth and send them to my friends.
Yeah.
It's like, I did that stuff, you know? But now I'm just kind of like, no, that's a distraction. That's not something we need to do.
Yeah. And I mean, it's definitely a maturity thing. I mean, it's hard for people to not be distracted in the classroom, and it's hard when you first get to the high school and you have to adapt to these iPads. Mm-hmm. Like, I hated the iPad at first. Like,
I loved it at first, but now I don't. That's kind of the opposite. Because now it's just become a point where it's just like, it puts forth procrastination.
Yeah.
It gives you the option to procrastinate.
I procrastinated a lot even before this, though.
Well, it's just that I've never had a smartphone. It's like, I've never really always had access to a computer at all times. Mm-hmm. It's like, so I've always just kind of been without that, and now that I've got this, it's like, I'm just like, ooh, I'm gonna, like, be on my Twitter constantly, I'm gonna be watching YouTube videos, going on the internet, all this stuff, and it just becomes, like, it just fuels procrastination, I think.
Okay, when you mention YouTube videos, though, I can't stand it when people watch YouTube videos in the middle of class.
That's terrible. I mean, like, I meant at home and stuff while doing homework.
Yeah.
But, like, while doing or procrastinating from doing homework, should I say. Yeah. Anyway, but, yeah, definitely. Or, like, when people are watching, like, Netflix on their phones, because, like, it's blocked.
Oh, it's insane.
It's blocked on the iPads, which is a good idea.
Yes, thank you.
Clap to the school. But people can get it on their phones. So I've, like, seen people just be watching Netflix in class, and I'm just like, well, then. Okay.
I like the availability of YouTube. I think that's really
it's
important.
Really good, especially in, like, class or projects.
Yeah, I think the use of earbuds should not be allowed in class at all.
Yeah, which they tried doing. They've been
and,
trying
like,
to
I mean,
do
I
that.
think there should be distinct times where teachers can say, you can take out your earbuds and listen to music during this test if you want to. But I think the teacher should have the full right to take earbuds away
from students.
Students, you know, even though, like, right now, at least in the student body, that's completely taboo for a teacher to do that.
Yeah. I just feel like the thing is that the school, like, tried to say, like, you're not allowed to wear earphones and stuff, but really, I haven't seen anyone follow that.
Well, I mean, even I don't,
a lot
because
of people still
sometimes when I'm, like, not doing anything and I know it's an appropriate time to have earbuds out, I want to listen to music, you know?
It's just, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, I understand lanyards. Like, how we have to wear that. I understand not having bags and stuff, but it's, like, I still just, like, don't get how the teachers just aren't really enforcing it and stuff. Like, it's been good to start enforcing lanyards and bags and hats and things. Why aren't we enforcing the earbuds?
Because I never did understand that.
It's like, I feel like teachers should make something with that. Like, I agree that having that time where you can, like, be like, pull out your earbuds and stuff, but teachers should definitely become more strict with that. Saying, like, stop that distraction, no earbuds, you know, take them out, give them to me. Things like that.
Really, I mean, I don't think it's a full school enforcement thing that needs to be done. I think
more
it's
like
every singular teacher
that's
needs
what I was
to
kind of meaning.
Enforce things in their own classroom.
Yeah.
And I think a teacher should have control over that. You know, you can't really... I mean, if your students aren't going to listen because they aren't willing to learn, there's not really anything you can do to control that. But if you try to enforce the fact that you can't have iPads, or you have to have your iPads up on the table, or your phone on the table, no earbuds or anything like that, I think it's kind of a classroom, like, teacher thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. But just, like, the enforcement is something that we need in classrooms.
Uh-huh, definitely. It's difficult, and even for students who have been respectful and stuff like that, it's a difficult thing, you know? It's almost like a work in progress, because we're kind of the guinea pigs when it comes to iPads, as well as the 3 years above us, and it's been difficult to adapt.
It really has, because as I'm, like, an RCP facilitator, like, when we were doing our summits at the beginning of the year, and we were asking classes, like, what are things you don't like about the school, what are things you do like, it's, like, things about iPads, and things about, like, how distracting they are, and everything like that, they were all mentioned, but it's, like, everyone just kind of has their own, like, different opinions on every little thing about this, because this is such a huge topic, because it's something that's, like, so huge in our school that it's, like, it just, like, feels normal now, but when you think about it, it's, like, a lot of schools don't have this.
Yeah.
A lot of schools don't have these problems, or they don't have these opportunities. It's just, it's kind of amazing to think about, and it's just kind of crazy, I think. It's
all very subjective, because it's not very known. Not that many other high schools have iPads, and it's definitely problems that we're facing that not a lot of other schools have experienced. So it's almost like we're the guinea pigs, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how it will work out.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. I mean, there are definitely problems, but there are also definitely opportunities and positive things about the iPad. And it's made life easier, it's made life harder, it's all just one big jumble of things, you know.
I'm excited to see, like, what the future holds with how the school is going to, like, solve those problems with the iPad. And, like, also find ways to make it better and make it more integrated into classrooms.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
And I already see it now. So I think that wraps up the podcast for today. Thanks for listening in. I'm Halle.
And I'm Holly.
And that wraps up Current Ed podcast number 1. Thanks.